So today's topic is the major scale, what to do with it, how to use it, how to get the most out of it. One of the biggest obstacles in front of guitar players getting this stuff sorted out is they don't think it's going to be any use. So the purpose of today's video is just to see if we can highlight some of the uses for it, and as we go forward I'll be looking at each of these in quite a bit of detail. But let's just take a simple start, and simple's good. Okay, so when I play that sequence of notes, what do you think of in your head? Some people say, oh, well, it sounds like a nursery rhyme, or it sounds like a musical box, or blah blah blah. Well, okay, let me play it again. What most people are going to hear is this. Okay, and that's perfectly reasonable. It's a C scale, and I've just played a C chord. But it also coincides with a lot of other scales. Now, some years ago I started working very hard on my scales. In fact, longer ago than I care to admit on this particular video. I got to the 50th page. It was page 50. And I've done all these exercises on my major scales, and I was pretty much playing them fluently all over the neck by this stage. It said, there was just one sentence on this page, and it said, now go back and play them all with a flat seventh. I thought, oh no, really? So this set me on a line of thinking which I think did me a massive favour. What it is basically this, is realising the similarities and coincidences that you get regularly cropping up in music. Now, in a previous video we were talking about blues and how to play over blues, and we discovered that the top half of a D ninth is also A minor, which is something we already knew. So by knowing how to play A minor pentatonic, we can play over D ninth very nicely. So that's the line of thinking. We don't want to be spending 6 months, 4, 5, 10 hours a day even, practicing, let's say, a G7 scale when we already knew it, we just called it something else. That would be absolute madness and a terrible waste of time. So let's take a couple of little examples. So as I said, here's C, and you're probably going to hear a C chord behind that. But what if you heard an A minor instead? Sound altogether. Now bear in mind, if I was playing this with distortion, all of these are perfectly rocking once you start getting stuck into them, but I don't want any distractions. We just want to hear the tones. That's all we want to hear. And I can go further with that. But I could have done this. Okay, now what we've got here is a D minor. And so on and so forth. So okay, so we've got A minor, we've got D minor. G7. Okay. So what do we got here? Well, slightly more obscure chord, obviously. But okay, so this is an F major 7. It's the sort of thing you'd hear Larry Carlton and Robin Ford playing over quite a bit, where they like to kind of hang on a chord and then investigate what you can do with that. And that's great fun to listen to. Highly recommend listening to both of them. In fact, I'm going to come back to Larry Carlton either in this video or a little bit later, because I was lucky enough to have a good chat with him about all this stuff. However, let's just keep going. So we've got an F major, it's an F major 7 to all intents and purposes, but it has this interesting, this flat 5, or some people like to call it a plus 11 or augmented 11th, which sounds much more dramatic if you want to call it that. Call it that. Again, this may not be something you want to use every day. Is B minor 7 flat 5 flat 9, and this often precedes, you know, those sort of sequences. There's quite a few uses there, as you will have gathered from what I've just played, and you know, there's always other stuff you can do, but the point of it is when you're practicing a major scale, you're practicing potentially 7 different things at the same time, and so they are massively useful. And the first application I'm going to be looking at in the next video is how we can use it with bluesy, rocky sounding major chords. And we've said in the past, in rock, when it's minor, it's minor. When it's major, it's quite often a bit of both, most of the time, but not all. Incidentally, just before we leave the subject of the C scale, and this obviously transfers to any key, it is possible to use a C scale in C, isn't it? Just depends on the song. Okay, well, it doesn't stay as a C for very long, but while it's there, okay, off it goes after that. Okay, but that's a little example. Yeah. Okay, so as ever, I don't want to put too much into one video. It's very important that you have one piece of information that's solid. You don't want half a dozen things you're not sure about. Okay, so that's where we're going to leave it for today. And if you could press the subscribe button, that would be great. And I will be back with part 2 in this series very shortly. Bye for now.